Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at another product from Eufy. This was sent out to me by Anchor, the parent company to Eufy, and this is their new dual camera video doorbell. Now this particular model that I've got is the battery powered one. Eufy do also produce a wired version, which has a slight difference in the sense that that doesn't come with a home base, and instead all the video is stored on a SD card within the camera itself. This particular model, as I said, it was sent out to me for review. I've had it installed for roughly maybe a couple of weeks now, just so then I can get an idea in terms of how it functions and the differences between this and the previous generation, which was their standard wide-angled video doorbell. Now, because I've had both, obviously I can see the main selling point of this particular doorbell, and that obviously being for parcels, any type of deliveries, keeping an eye on those kind of boxes and anything that's left on your front porch basically. Now with this, the wide angle lens I believe is just slightly narrower or roughly around the same as what the View was before, but you now also get a secondary 1080p HD camera that is positioned right towards the bottom of the doorbell, and it also has a slight twist to it as well, so you can actually move it and orient it whichever way you want to in order to make it fit and get everything that you want in the frame basically. Okay, so what we'll do is have a quick unboxing. So here you can see when you open it, you're initially presented with the doorbell itself as well as the home base. What I did do was leave the protective covering on until after you've installed it, just to make sure you're not getting any fingerprints. On the back you can see you do have the option for wiring in. This does give it charging ability, but it doesn't actually change it into the equivalent of the wired version. On the home base is pretty standard, same as all the previous Eufy home bases. I believe it's 16 gigabytes of storage that you actually get with that. You do get the power adapter for the home base, and you do get two types of power adapter plugs, and you also get the Ethernet cable as well. And alongside that you also get the bracket mount, and along with that you do also get a 15-degree, I believe it's 15 degrees wedge, in order to angle the doorbell slightly to one side or the other. As well as that you also get a sticker which gives you an indication of where to drill your holes, and you get the normal sort of security stickers from Eufy. You'd also get the charging cable for the camera itself, which plugs into the home base, and that's the best way to charge it. You get a quick start guide, you get some fixings, and then you get your connections to basically wire this up permanently, and then finally you get your key in order to release your doorbell from the mount itself. So in terms of my setup, this is all I actually needed. I didn't actually need the home base in fact, because I connected this to my existing one, but this is essentially all you need to install the doorbell. Once installed, here you can see I've got mine using the 15-degree wedge, and I've got it angled slightly inwards. This isn't the ideal situation for where you would actually mount it, because that side wall is so close. It does mean that I get a lot of IR reflection, the infrared reflection, so night vision isn't the best. But luckily for me, I do also have permanent basically light in this location, so whenever it's lit up at night, it's basically using the color camera as opposed to the night vision, which in my opinion is a lot better anyway. And finally here you can see how the power button or the actual button, activation button, lights up a ring around it. It does that both with proximity, so as somebody approaches it, it will light up, as well as when you actually push the button itself as well. Now coming on to a video sample, here you can see there is a slight dropout in the downloaded version. When you actually watch this back on the phone, it's perfectly fine. So the top section of this is what you would normally see on any normal doorbell. The bottom square essentially, or rectangle, is what the extra camera actually gives you. And as you can see, it does give you a detailed description in your notifications, or the sort of recordings in the app itself, and it tells you what happened. So a human delivered a parcel, and on this occasion it was picked up straight away. If it wasn't picked up, then it obviously would give you a slightly different notification. And one thing that it does also do is it has a built-in sort of package protection and an AI system. So if somebody rings the doorbell, it will actually prompt them and ask them what they're doing. If it's for a delivery, you can actually set it so then it automatically asks them to just leave it on the doorstep or on your front porch, and then it will keep an eye on that particular package. Once that package is either moved or picked up, it will then send you a secondary notification if it's not picked up at the point when the doorbell was initially rung. Here you can see this is the sort of presentation that you get when you go into the app, and as you can see, it gives you a big sort of preview of the main camera sort of angle, and then it gives you the screenshot of the smaller camera, which is your downward facing camera. This one isn't as high quality, but obviously for what it's doing, where it's simply just keeping an eye on your package, I believe that's perfectly fine in terms of quality. Next up is just coming into the settings quickly. Here's a few of the additional settings that you can actually go into. Just coming into one of them, which is the delivery guard, and this is essentially where you can set it to either enable or disable that particular feature, and you can also have it set up to where it will give you certain notifications. Alongside that, as I mentioned, is the Ring auto response, and if you actually click on the just below where the button is, where it says please door, it does give you 3 options. I believe you can also record your own as well, and if you wanted to, obviously you could always interact with the doorbell live when somebody rings it as well. Next, coming into the video quality section, here you can see I do have HDR enabled. As I said, in the location where my particular doorbell is mounted, it's on the side of the house, so it's not getting direct sunlight, which means that I'm not really worrying about blowing out any highlights or anything. But at night, whenever the doorbell is rung, before anybody gets close to my front door, the light will turn on. So basically it's just to make sure I've always got the very best picture quality, and it also gives you the options for how you want it set up in terms of how it streams. I always just set these to high because I never really have any issues with broadband speed, so that's not really a problem for me. If you did want to set it up with either Alexa or Google, then you can also do that here as well. Finally, just having a quick look at the Power Manager. Now this, I believe when it came, it was on around about 74%. As you can see, I've had this installed, it says some time ago, but basically it's been roughly around about 2.5 weeks at this point now. As you can see, it's had a lot of detections, and obviously it's filtered out quite a lot in terms of false notifications as well. That's one thing that the AI does do quite well. On this particular occasion, I've actually just left it on what it came as, so in terms of balance surveillance. Normally what I do is I just go custom and I just max everything out because I wanted it to have a faster response. But with this particular doorbell, what I have found is, I don't know whether it's a difference in terms of the proximity sensors or just the fact that it's got more functions available to it with the dual cameras and the proximity sensor, that it never misses a detection, and I've not really had any problems with it to the point where I need it to go back and basically make it so then it detects faster, or it records for longer either. Whenever there's been any type of motion, it's recorded everything that we've needed up until the point the person's left. Now, just coming back to the battery side of things, on the actual box, it does actually claim that one charge will last 6 months. Now, this is obviously very dependent on your actual usage itself. With the previous doorbell, so with the standard 2K doorbell, the single camera version, because I had it all maxed out, I was finding that I was getting roughly around about 3 months of very heavy usage. That's literally people going in and out and it recording every single one of those interactions daily. So I was getting roughly around 3 months with that. So possibly if you've got very light usage, I think 6 months is very achievable. On a more sort of realistic sort of time frame, I'd say between 3 and 4 months for this particular model should be quite reasonable in terms of battery life. I wouldn't expect it to be any less than that, considering how heavy my usage is, and it's still being fine. If you do have a location where you're mounting this, where it's either looking out onto a road or something like that, that's when you want to actually go into the settings and mask off certain areas that you want it to actually look for whenever it's detecting motion, and obviously also adjust your motion detection sensitivity. But as I said, with my location, because it's on the side of the house, by the time somebody comes to that point towards my front door, it means that somebody's already on my property, so I'm never really going to have false notifications, if you like. The only thing that it kind of filters out is probably animals and just false movement with wind and things like that, or just odd lighting conditions can sometimes trigger it as well. But for the most part, I would think that 4 to 6 months is probably more realistic in terms of what you're going to get. And at the end of the day, it doesn't take long for you to charge it. If you did want to wire this up to get constant charging, you can do that. But if you're in that position situation, then I would probably suggest that you go for the wired option rather than going for the battery one. The biggest benefit with the battery one over the wired is the fact that you get that external storage, so somebody could steal your doorbell but you would still have a copy of every video clip recorded up until that point. Whereas with the wired doorbell, if somebody steals your doorbell, then they've taken everything, because everything is stored on, I believe it's on an SD card that's actually located within the doorbell itself. But yeah, that's my first look of the Eufy dual camera video doorbell. So far I'm very pleased with it. It basically eliminates the need for me to have a secondary camera set up in that location, which is what I was doing before, but it also gives me extra security because it now looks directly at that package rather than just catching it in the corner of a frame or something, as it was doing previously. Notifications with this are obviously much faster than with my additional camera as well. So yeah, 2 thumbs up in terms of everything that it's doing so far. I will obviously do follow-ups, so I'll probably do a 3-month, 6-month and a 12-month follow-up, just to give you an idea in terms of how the battery is lasting, any issues that I find, any significant feature changes through firmware upgrades. Obviously I'll make any videos on those, and if you do have any questions, obviously drop them down in the comment section down below as well. But other than that, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe and hit that notification bell for any future videos coming, and I'd really appreciate if you give this video a thumbs up as well. Thanks very much for watching.